Doctor, there's a lot of awareness about health these days, but the problem is that people have been getting all kinds of information from everywhere. For instance, even about dieting and even about taking care of themselves. For instance, there was this about, controlling your carbohydrates intake. But the recent study says that when you're exercising enough, that you need to be taking more of carbohydrates too. So these are very conflicting and people get confused. So do you think that there is any kind of a standard to what information can be savored or can be accepted and what can be rejected? Because doctors themselves seem to be in a state of confusion.
I would like to preface what I have to say by saying that we have blindly aped the Western society, which has built its empire of healthcare on taking care of illness and not giving enough importance to wellness. That has to change. I think as doctors, we should try to keep people well so that they don't get into hospitals. Unfortunately, everyone wants to take care of a sick patient because that's a very lucrative thing to do. And it's procedures that bring in money for the healthcare. So wellness has not gotten the importance it should. And as you rightly pointed out, whenever information has been given, it has been given in bits and pieces, and sometimes misinformation has also spread. Of course, we have to move with times, but my fundamental belief is that if you can keep some patient away from the hospital, you have achieved what you should. And that is what I would call a good doctor.
Doctor, like you were saying, that perhaps, the whole information is not given. Is it not given on purpose is the main question, because many times what happens is that you keep the patients in a state of confusion so that perhaps they will not be able to do even if they can do something about themselves, and they always depend on a doctor. And this dependency on a doctor is something that is quite questionable.
See, there are many issues that are the reasons for why people do not give enough importance to wellness. First and foremost, wellness is not a one-time procedure. It's not like doing an angioplasty or a kidney transplant. This is something where you have to counsel patients for life. It's a lifetime modification of your lifestyle. It takes a tremendous amount of time, and the returns are very, very low. I mean, you do a procedure, within 10-15 minutes, you probably get your professional fees for that. Whereas to change someone's lifestyle, you might have to slog for years, and the returns are not there. And hence, I strongly believe that lifestyle awareness and modification of your lifestyle should be in the realm of doctors, nurse practitioners, and physician assistants. Because doctors are very scarce in this country, and they may not be able to spend enough time on a given individual to coax them to lead a good lifestyle. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't do that, but I think you should have a team of dietitians, wellness people, physician assistants, nurse practitioners, and the doctor in creating a wellness society in this country.
But like you said, it's actually a long drawn process. But the problem here is that the whole concept of trust, because a lot of people don't believe their dietitians or even their doctors when it comes to wellness, because they think there could be a hidden agenda. Like, because it's a long drawn process, many people don't even believe a final result is actually possible. For instance, you also see some dietitians who don't look well themselves. And people actually try things on their own, because today the concept is about being healthy by not actually having enough weight on your body and you looking a little lithy and energetic and so on. But we have seen people who are really obese but quite energetic and active, and these are very conflicting because people can't actually make a decision as to what is healthy and what is not. Like you said, we've been following these Western standards of wellness also, and Western standards of wellness is about somebody looking fine and healthy than somebody who is actually healthy. And today in India, you may have also seen a lot of people who don't look very healthy but who are actually very healthy and very fine. So do you think the standards should be very different when it comes to India?
I think one, of course, the standards have to be different for different genetic makeups that exist in this world. But the second thing that is very important is I think we have gone to extremes. We have this terribly undernourished models that you see, the skinny models on TV.
Anorexic.
They're anorexic, and that's not a good role model for anyone. Then at the other end of the spectrum, you have extremely obese people who need 3 people to carry them from chair to chair. So somewhere in between, and the simplest mantra is moderation. Moderation of any kind in anything that you do, whether it's eating, whether it is taking sugary drinks. Certainly, moderation is what you need to do. There's no need to avoid any kind of food completely, but certainly moderation is needed. And for specific illnesses, you have to avoid certain things or cut it down drastically. Like people who are obese, diabetic, overweight certainly should avoid sugars. Smoking is a no-no, not even in moderation. It's an absolute no-no. Drinking, as I said, again, once in a way, having a wine probably doesn't hurt you, but we as doctors don't recommend people to drink. People with heart failure, high blood pressure, so on and so forth, certainly should not take too much of salt. And some form of exercise, even if you can walk for 15, 20, 30 minutes a day, please do it. If you are going to interview me sitting, ask me to stand up for a few minutes. I think that's the new mantra, that don't sit, stand. So if you're going to sit in front of the computer, stand in front of the computer, walk around, come back to your chair and do that. So any kind of activity where you move your muscles is a good thing for you.
So this about exercising, which people have been speaking for a very long time, and also being physically active. But I myself have seen a lot of people who exercise a lot, but they don't have the energy. But they may be active only during the time of doing the exercise, but generally they are quite fatigued. Maybe because of the exercising, or maybe because of lack of some other things in their body, or basically because of their constitution. But there are people who don't exercise at all, but who are actually active the whole day. So do you think that having these role models of people who are physically active during only a certain part of the day could be very wrong?
I think in general people should be active all through the day. But the reason people say be active for at least half an hour or 40 minutes a day is that you don't miss out on exercise. The modern world is mostly moved from a caveman to a computer man, which means you're in front of your computer or the screen for the entire day in an air-conditioned room, and you don't even move except maybe your fingers to punch the keyboard. So I think some form of a regular exercise schedule helps people to exercise. But there are multiple aspects to weight gain. I would like to point that out. This is a question that's been asked a million times. A lot of patients come and say, "Doctor, I eat half as much as my friend here. He is only 65 kgs, I am 95 kgs. So I tell them that your weight is like your bank balance. So what constitutes your bank balance? What you put in, which is the calories that you take in, what you withdraw, which is the calories you spend, and there's a third component that people do not realize, and that is the interest. If you have an extremely high interest rate, that's good for the bank balance, but not good for your weight. So there's something called constitution, where you may eat the same, you may exercise the same, but the amount of weight you gain is very different, and that is a constitutional thing. I really don't want to sort of blame people who are obese, saying that you useless fellow, you don't work, you don't eat too much, and that's why you're gaining weight. I think we should look at it as a disease. And some things may not be under their control. And as healthcare givers, it's our duty to help them lose weight rather than condemning them.
But you're talking about calories, and the most recent reports say that carbohydrates are extremely essential for the body. So depriving your body of carbohydrates also could be very wrong, because some people go on this dieting spree and completely cut out carbohydrates, and they deprive the brain, they deprive the body, they deprive themselves of so many good things that carbohydrates can actually do. So do you think like the processed sugar, like the kind of sugar that we get, or the other sugars that we actually get in the market, to the kind of sugars that are naturally available are two different things, and people should not be cutting out all kinds of sugars?
Now, I'm glad that you brought it up, because God has created different kinds of food, because all of them are necessary. You need carbohydrates, you need fats, you need proteins, you need vitamins, you need trace minerals, you need fluids, so on and so forth. So anything to be cut off completely would be a disaster, because as you are aware, brain can only process carbohydrates or glucose. So if there's no glucose, people go into coma, and that's what happens when you take too much of insulin. The brain cannot metabolize anything else, unlike other parts of the body. So carbohydrates are an essential part of our diet, but excess of carbohydrates, especially the carbohydrates which have a very high glycemic index, which sort of directly get absorbed and cause your sugars to go up, are toxic. And that there is very good evidence to that. And in fact, now the term that many people use is it's called carbotoxin. It is toxic to the body if taken in large amounts, especially the sugary drinks, plain sugar, so on and so forth, pastries. So, but carbohydrates are needed, otherwise you'll be dead. So also protein is needed, fats are needed, minerals are needed. So that's what I said, the mantra is moderation, nothing in exercise, and regular exercise.
No, but you or any person, I mean you in the sense, any layman, to be following the kind of information that he or she gets on TV or elsewhere and completely going by that kind of advice and not actually meeting the right kind of doctor is completely wrong because many people may not be able to get the right kind of a doctor.
Yeah, I think people go with fads. And there are a lot of people who give a lot of advice. Some of them may be right, some of them may not be right. So I think it's important, like anything in life.
Is it actually true that there is no standard of what is absolutely right and what is absolutely wrong? Because sometimes even a doctor may say that he actually came to the conclusion based on so many other facts and facets of the problem.
See, we have to go by the current knowledge we have. And there are standard recommendations by the dietetic associations of various countries of this world. And I think those would be the standard requirement. For instance, now I grew up loving eggs, the yellow of the
like
eggs.
Like me.
And the minute I reached America, every day I was bombarded with the information that yolks of the eggs is bad, it kills you, it destroys your heart. And I started getting worried each time I saw a yellow of an egg. And I had a friend who would boil the egg, then take off the yolk, wash it with tap water. I mean, tap water is quite clean in the US, to make sure there's not even a speck of egg yolk, and then eat it. And 30 years later, now we find out that egg yolk is not as bad as people made it out to be. There is very little correlation between what cholesterol you eat and what cholesterol is seen in the blood. So for 30 years, people believed that egg yolk is poison, and now we know it's not poison. Of course, excess may not be good for you. 30 years, people believe that carbohydrates are okay, and now we are told that the carbohydrates are bad for you, they are toxic for you. So I think we should change with times, but we have to go by what is the current recommendation, because we cannot look at the future now.
Should there be always an element of doubt about all kinds of information that you get in relation to the healthcare or medicines and all that?
I think some amount of rationale and questioning needs to be there in any aspect of your life. There should not be any blind faith. If you have blind faith, then people
even
manipulate
as a doctor.
you. No, I think people manipulate you if you have blind faith. But we can only go by what is known today, and the current recommendations might change. 20 years from now, what I said today may be totally wrong. I've seen that in medicine. We used to use different kinds of medicine for different illnesses. Now, if you use that, I'll be in jail for malpractice. So medicine has changed, so also society has changed, recommendations have changed, but you cannot say that what I did 20 years ago was right, what I'm doing today is wrong, or what I'm doing today is right, and what I do 20 years from now will be wrong. So I think we have to change with times. It is relative with the information and the knowledge we have at the current status.
But for instance, even intake of salt, recent studies say that, if you don't take enough salt, it could be bad for your heart.
No, I think there's no doubt if you don't take salt, you won't live. And that's why people die of dehydration.
No, but at least about minimum 5 grams of salt a day.
Yeah, I think most people would recommend about 5 grams of salt.
Some people keep themselves completely away from salt.
No, we do not recommend that.
Because somebody may have actually told them that salt is bad for them.
No, I think no one would probably say don't eat any salt. At most, they would say limit your salt intake. And I think it's very important in heart failure, hypertension, kidney disease to limit your salt. So there are many reasons to limit salt. But I think completely staying away from salt, one is you cannot eat because it's unpalatable. The second is salt is needed for existence.
Yeah. And the other thing is about making the right decisions about, when you have to start dieting, how much you have to exercise. And what doctor says could be completely relative to what the doctor's idea of your body and your stamina and your regimen is. But you may not be able to do all that. And is it also possible that people could be doing things wrongly because, it's completely an advice and they don't know? Like if somebody tells me do so much exercise, after some time the body actually tells me that it can't take it anymore. So you tell no, it's not possible. But when the doctor tells you that you actually without any option, follow it. So do you think that the doctor also may have to observe the patient for a longer time? Like you said, it is a long drawn process, not just in terms of getting the results, but also working with the patient. And no doctor actually has that kind of time.
Lifestyle modifications, the first question that you asked me, I have a standard phrase saying that it starts in the womb and ends in the tomb. So many of the things that are harmful to you can start in the mother's womb. So the mother has to be careful during pregnancy, because a lot of things that you do in pregnancy, like smoking, drinking, and all that, could be harmful to the kid. Poor nutrition is another major issue, and there is very extensive evidence that low birth weight of a kid leads to a lot of problems in the future, like hypertension, kidney disease, so on and so forth. So I think we should start the lifestyle with the mother. Then it starts off with an infant getting enough of, I cannot overemphasize this, mother's milk. Mother's milk is the best food, the least expensive food, and the one that protects the kid. So encourage mothers to breastfeed their babies, and that's the standard recommendation by all pediatricians now. A healthy diet, and also we now see that there's a lot of obesity that starts very young. So I think it's important that we don't overfeed kids or young adolescents, because once you're obese at that age, then it's very difficult to get them back to the normal. So I think your taking care of yourself should start off in the womb when the mother is pregnant, and will have to continue all through your childhood, adolescence, adulthood till you die.